Oh, you know what? I'll introduce you and you can introduce the touches. And we very regular. Who else is Shandaken or the Hartford co-chair now? Sally and Bill?
Yes.
How are you?
My grandson says that I did that when I was a kid. We grew up for a couple years in Minnesota. But this year he went to one of those. But he's so funny because he's such a ego. The only thing is, remember, opposite perspective on it. Because we
well, we're really gratified to see other people. That's a big thing about
I do. I want to
Yeah, very much. We have relevant speakers that will be national experts on
The sign is out.
that's why this is a great place to grow because you have access. I was out much last year, actually. It was officially. I had a hernia operation in June. It was evident, but not widespread. Just isolated.
If I could have your attention, folks. If I could have your attention, we'd like to get going here. And I'd like to ask the co-chairs of the two towns to come up here and join me. I think that probably most of you know that I'm Joan Lawrence Bauer. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Town of Shandaken Committee. And to my left is Doris Nieves, and Doris is the other co-chair of the Town of Shandaken Committee. On my right are the Hardenberg co-chairs, Bill Scholl and Sally Fairburn. And all of us are really, really pleased that you came out tonight. I would have not had us come out tonight myself, but I appreciate that everybody is here and hope that everybody will jump in and really add a lot to what we've done so far in all of our work together. I would like to, before we get into the meat of the meeting and everything like that, I would like to ask that the committee members of the two town committees who have been working on the New York Community Rising program stand up so that we can see who our committees are. So we have Mark Letty, Faye Storms, and Aaron Bennett here from the Shandaken Committee. And we have Bernadette B.A. from the Hardenberg Committee. Oh, I'm sorry. And Rich is also from the Shandaken Committee. How did you get over there? So anyway, thank you very much. We've all been working very, very hard for many months now, meeting on a very regular basis. We generally meet right here in the town hall on Wednesdays. Sometimes it's every other Wednesday, but it's been very regular, and we've really been working very hard on this program. All of our meetings are open to the public, but this is our third big invitational, if you will, where we are really looking to hear more from the public than from the committee members about what we are thinking about. This has been a process that keeps sort of changing as we go along. We're inventing the car as we drive it. And so even tonight, the things that you will hear are all very, very much preliminary. They are still all tentative. Things might come out, things might be added. We are nearing the end, but until we get to the end, it can change. We welcome public input at any time. Our meetings are posted on the Shandaken town website. I'm not sure if they're also on the Hardenberg website, but everybody can find them on the Shandaken site. For those of you who might not know, this is about a lot of money. Each of our towns will get $3 million, assuming that we can come up with appropriate projects for the use of that money. And then we might also be eligible to win additional awards in other special categories like public outreach. So when you hear about public outreach meeting number 4, you all have to come back and you all have to bring somebody with you, because it could mean another $3 million in each town. So with that said, I don't know if any of my other committee co-chairs want to say anything. Sally?
No,
Bill?
not well.
Okay.
But just thank people who came from out of town to come to this meeting.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I do want to take the time to introduce 3 people without whom none of us would be here, and without whom we couldn't have even begun this process, let alone carried it on. Lori DeBoard. Lori works with the New York State Housing and Community Renewal, and she is one of the people who is marshaling resources and marshaling us and getting everything through all of the channels. Next to Lori is Lisa Melville, who works for the New York State Department of State. This is a program that involves every state agency in some way or other, and these folks are helping to bring all of these agencies together. And next to Lisa is Bill Harding. Bill is a diplomat extraordinaire. He seems to have been through a lot of trenches and gets right down there in the trenches with us and really keeps us from going off into outer space. So we're deeply, deeply grateful for everything that you 3 bring to the table every day. So with that, what I want to do is to introduce Cynthia Bianco from Tetra Tech. Tetra Tech is a consultant team that has been hired by the state to consult with us to help us get through all of this stuff, to make sure that the projects that we propose are fundable projects, are reasonable, that the costs and the risk are all balanced out, that there is a scientific aspect to what we're doing and it's not just sort of pie in the sky. And they have done an incredible amount of research and work and really helped to pull this document together. They will take us through most of the rest of this process, and then hopefully we'll come together again in the end. So, Cynthia?
Thank you, Joan. Thanks for that wonderful summary of sort of what we have been doing and why we are here. So I'm Cynthia Bianco. I'm working for Tetra Tech. I'd like to introduce the rest of our team. First, next to me, we have Russ Dudley, our hydraulic specialist. John Miserak, our economic development planner, and Greg Brunel, comes from the background of emergency management and one of our planners too. As you came in today, you may have noticed that we have a lot of posters on display here. They're posters that are showing preliminary priority project lists and posters that have maps that show the locations of those projects. So as we go through this presentation today, we'll let you know how this came about, what we've been doing since this program started in the beginning of September, what input we've used, how we've used the public input in our first two committee meetings, and by feedback we've gotten from your surveys and our outreach at Shandaken Fest and at Hardenberg outreach at the Cauliflower Festival over in Margaretville, how we've used that to build these project lists, and then how we have used the science in terms of our hydraulic analysis to winnow this list down to a small number of projects. Because in the end, you see a lot of projects on these lists, but they do have to comply with eligibility requirements of the program. And so we're starting with the bigger list, and we want to make sure that after we get through all these hoops, that we come up with a number of projects that will be the focus of your spending of the $3 million. So with that, I'd like you to have a brief overview of the program, and the best person I think to present that is Bill Harding, to let you know sort of the purpose of this program.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Sure.
Yes, and thanks everybody for coming. Thanks again. It's certainly been a privilege and a pleasure working with everyone in Shandaken and Hardenberg, and with our consultant team, and with everyone, my compatriots at the Department of State. Part of my diplomatic training is not to forget to thank Supervisor Stanley and Supervisor Fairbairn for their cooperation. The Supervisor Stanley has given us this room to use as we see fit, to have all our meetings here, and it's been a godsend and a very productive place. So, what is this thing about? Essentially, the state of New York is providing chosen communities around the state with some funding to implement good and sufficient flood recovery and resilience projects. Shandaken and Hardenberg each are designated to receive $3 million for these purposes. As Cynthia was saying, we're going to make sure that this process culminates in a list of priority projects that are implementable, fundable, and most of all, are accrued to the benefit of the communities where they are chosen, and perhaps even more important is the fact that we are relying completely on the citizens of these towns and our good co-chairs and our committee volunteers to make sure that we understand what's important to Shandaken and Hardenberg, and that Shandaken and Hardenberg make the decisions about what's important to them. So we want to, as I said, make sure that we provide funding to do projects that will make Shandaken and Hardenberg a little more prepared for the next, I hate to say it, inevitable flooding event. All of you live here, you know best about how often flooding events happen and what you go through when they do. So this program is all about trying to help a little bit to make sure that our communities are better prepared next time for the weather event and generally any issue that might confront them. As Joan mentioned, in addition to the baseline $3 million for good projects, there is available another $3 million award for regional collaboration or any number of issues that where communities can rise to the top. And it showed that they have uniquely approached solutions to these planning problems, these local community resilience problems. And so, as was mentioned before, that's always in the back of everyone's mind, not only to do a good job up front with good sufficient projects that the communities can implement, but also to perhaps win additional funds so that this long-term leveraging and long-term addressing of these issues can continue. So basically, that's what this is all about. We want a bottom-up project, working with everyone in the community who knows far better than we do about what's right for Shandaken and what's right for Hardenburg. And in the end, I'm happy to say that we have quite a few projects to choose from. In fact, some of the difficulty that we might have as we end up this process is choosing the best from a really good list of projects, especially here in Shandaken and Hardenburg. So, again, thanks. We're very happy to be here. We're happy to have been working with all of you. We're happy for the time we have left, which I'm sure will be substantial. We're about to get involved in an implementation phase. So far, we've been noodling about good projects and thinking about the most significant needs in our communities, and now we're transitioning into the implementation phase, where we're going to talk about bricks and mortar and putting our boots in the ground and digging some holes and making these projects work. And that sometimes is even more challenging than generating the list in the first place. So again, thanks everybody. We appreciate you coming. As Joan mentioned, please don't fail to attend the next public engagement opportunity, as we like to call it. And we're very anxious to hear your input tonight, and I'm sure we'll see you again. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Bill. So before we move on, I would like to turn this over to John Miserak, who will be starting our presentation. Understanding that we like to give our presentation, get through it, and then afterwards, we would love to hear your comments and entertain the public comments. So, John?
Thank you, Cynthia. Again, my name is John Miserak. I'm with Tetra Tech and have been working with the two subcommittees here in Shandaken and Hardenburg on this project. And I think it's important, we're not going to spend too much time on this, but just want to put some context behind this, because I think it's important to understand and lay the foundation that there's been planning that has been going on over the last 4 to 5 months. And as Bill mentioned, we're moving into the implementation phase. So briefly, just want to go through this really quick so that everybody in attendance understands how we've gotten to this part. So as Joan mentioned, we've been meeting with the committees jointly over the last several months. We work with them and work with the public during public meetings to develop visioning statements and goals and identify what the needs were and assess those in the communities. We have been working on, there was a conceptual plan that was developed, which in essence was a status report that was issued back in the late part of October. That's been available on the New York Rising website. We worked with both committees to identify all of the critical assets that are in your communities. And those would be everything from roads to water, sewer, buildings, economic development entities, and so forth that are within the community, so that we understood where the critical assets were within both of your towns. From there, we've also been working with the public, as was mentioned in the introductions. It's been important and it's been a critical component of this whole entire process that we're engaged with the public. Joan mentioned the meetings are all public that we hold with the committees, but we've also held 2 public meetings, one in October and one in November, where we have been keeping the community up to date as to where we stand and what we've been able to accomplish. We've been working through, and we'll touch base on this in a little bit, but qualitative outreach and analysis. So we've been talking to people and getting some of their ideas. You'll also be hearing from Russ shortly about hydraulic modeling. So we've also been looking at quantitative, so the numbers about some of the projects that are out there. We've also been working with doing risk assessment, trying to figure out if we do these projects, how much of a flooding event can we mitigate and be able to reduce with the implementation of those projects. We are currently working to analyze some of the projects that you see around here on these posters, and that we'll go over here very briefly to run through a cost-benefit analysis. We're working on those right now, and we'll have those available before the end of March, and we're working on a prospective funding matrix and implementation strategies. It's important to note that the state has committed to provide access to the state agencies, all of the state agencies that are within under Governor Cuomo's jurisdiction, and be able to connect funding streams to those projects. As we talked, there's $3 million per town, so each town has $3 million at the end of the day to move these move a set of projects forward. As you can tell, and as you'll see as we go through these projects, there are more than $3 million worth of projects in each of the towns that we need to look at. And so the state has committed to assisting, and we're going to work with the committees to identify where there may be other funding sources from the other state agencies and other potential funding sources out there to be able to help move those forward and develop a roadmap for the communities to be able to move those projects forward. It's important to set the context behind this and explain where the funding's coming from, because that has been a critical linchpin to being able to identify and be able to quantify and then be able to qualify projects that the community's looking at. So the funding is coming from Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Funding. Came down through a federal appropriation down in the state of New York. Governor Cuomo created the New York Rising program, and these two towns were selected. Underneath the CDBG-DR funding source, projects have to be eligible underneath there. So you see a list up on the screen of public facilities and improvements, relocation planning, capacity building, acquisition of real property, clearance, rehabilitation, reconstruction, economic development assistance. There needs to be, and this is what's critical with the DR part of this, there's got to be a direct link back to the disasters that occurred. So we're looking at those disasters here. There's Hurricane Irene and Tropical Storm Lee. So it's got, the projects that we're looking at have got to have a direct link back into those disasters, and not only recover, but they can also, which is critical, can also be creating resiliency for future storms that are out there. But there's got to be a direct link to that. So that's important. Another area that's important is that it doesn't contribute to an overall CDBG national objective. These are the three areas up here: benefits low, moderate income households, removes blight conditions, and urgent need. A lot of these projects are urgent need because of their tie back to the disaster. So we've had to go through and take a look at all the projects that we've received input on and been able to run them through this lens. Here's some critical parts that I want to make sure that everybody's aware of up front. You're going to hear me say this on several occasions as we continue to move forward through this presentation, but it's critical so that you understand how the committees are coming up with these projects and being able to have them rise to the top. Can it be completed, and can the funds be spent in a 2-year time period? This money has got a 2-year window on it. That was directed by the federal government. So the projects have got to be done within a 2-year window. Does each project cost less than $3 million? Each community was given an allotment of $3 million. So there are projects out there that we may have identified or may have been worked on that are greater than $3 million and need more than $3 million. The projects have got to have a beginning and an end. So as we've looked at projects, we have to look through the lens, and the committees have to look through the lens that there is $3 million